jenniferk.com. And today I'm with Jennifer Cross from Fascinating Womanhood classes. Welcome, Jennifer.
Hi, Noah. How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you. So I think today we were discussing before we started recording about how important it is that we examine the kind of programming that we have. What I mean by that is that you receive a set of instructions of how to behave. You can call it the software to run on your hardware of your humanity. And that comes some from your culture, from your parents, from schools, mass media, even from friends. And it makes a huge difference in how we choose to live our life, the type of software that we choose to run. But most people have never examined the software running in the back of their head and tried to optimize it, tried to make it something that will get them the kind of life they want.
Great point. Great point. And in regards to Fascinating Womanhood, I would say I don't give percentages because I don't have them, but most of the women who join my classes or work with me or join us as fans on our closed Facebook group or buy the Fascinating Womanhood books and love the principles, even though they may not like all of them at first, is because they are trying to unlearn feminism. And I did some research. I did do some research on this, and the consensus is, even from feminists who are proud of the fact that they had to learn feminism. And I can find clips all over YouTube of women saying they had to be taught feminism and they had to learn feminism, which to me implies, and I know I had to unlearn feminism and get reconnected and reclaim my own femininity and live who I truly knew from 3, 4, 5 years old, that I wanted to be, above all things, a wife, a mother, and a homemaker. That doesn't mean, and I love education. I have my master's degree in counseling. We're not about not educating women and making women be subservient slaves. None of womanhood. Womanhood is very about strength. You have to be educated. You're raising the citizens of the world. So that's the whole lie of feminism, that you were not equal in the home.
Well, it creates a false dichotomy. It says you're either a slave to the patriarchy, or you are a free and independent woman who doesn't need anyone. And that's a false dichotomy.
And that's the saddest thing I ever heard, is that you don't need a man because the truth is, women are programmed to want to be loved, to want to be cherished, to want to be adored by the man of their dreams. And if you go back to your little girl self of 3, 4, and 5 years old, the majority of us and I remember I was like, get married, have kids, and have a home. I love the man that who chooses to marry me. And I could never admit that. But I chose a good, went into health education, and I think counseling is a great career for women because it's about relationships and you learn so much about yourself. There are wonderful careers. And women who have the corner office, I commend you for that. Do that. But don't think that it's easy to have the man of your dreams who loves and adores you, a household and children at the same time. That's the lie. It is extremely difficult. Not many of us can do it. Many women burn out by the age of 40 because you haven't been able to do any of it well, and you end up in my office or, taking in the hospital with a nervous breakdown. Because true fulfillment for women, the truth is, this is about femininity. And your true happiness comes from living that role, wife, mother, homemaker first. Doesn't mean you can't go off and do wonderful things after that.
Yeah. In fact, with the experience of being a wife and a mother and a homemaker, you're more capable then of going and making real change in the world because you have some idea of what's needed.
Right.
Even biologically, when you have a child, for example, when you have a son, some of the stem cells from the child get into your bloodstream, they go into your brain, and they convert parts of your brain to think like a boy. This helps you to understand your son. but it also helps to give women a very broad perspective on the world, because every child they have, that ends up affecting how they think about the world. And it gives them that opportunity to understand other people and be very empathetic.
Well, I know that to be true. Having had 2 daughters and a son, my pregnancy with all 3 was very different. But yeah, you definitely have more. I knew I was having a son because I started to grow, have facial hair. And that is something that happens to women who are carrying boys. And my son and I are extremely connected. We are very, very, I'm close to all of them, my children, thank God for that, but I worked at it. But yeah, that's absolutely true. And the role of the home, what is more important than raising a human being? Mm-hmm. And the idea that women are better nurturers or better caregivers is like something that the patriarchy is serving us is utterly ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, and you can just look to the animal kingdom for that. Who raises the bear, the baby bear, the mama bear? I mean, you just like look below, ladies. You have the equipment, which means your brain also is designed. And I do have to say that there are some women who don't want children. That's fine. You find a man who doesn't want children and you live your life happily. Then we're not speaking to you. We are speaking to women, and especially young women, because I don't want you to make the mistake. I don't want you to be frustrated when you get to 30 years old and you still haven't found the man. You're working on that career and you're not being taken seriously there either. And really all you wanted at 30, now where's the man of my dreams? I want to have that baby. The clock is ticking, ladies. Yeah. It's a fact. I know women in their 40s who've had babies and they don't like it. They're like, I wish I did this in my 20s. I'm not ready. I can't handle this right now.
Promoting career over family is a multi-billion-dollar industry. In school, they try to give young girls a lot of experience with potential careers, much more so than they even do with boys, because boys are going to go in that direction anyway, so they don't spend a lot of time on it. But encouraging girls to try to be a scientist for a day, be an engineer for a day. Here's this program or the other. They put no effort into, well, would you like to come and spend some time in a maternity ward and meet some newborn babies? And, would you like to go to the junior kindergarten and see what some of the kids are there? Would you like to play with some young children? There's no effort to ignite their feminine, nurturing, maternal side.
Nope. It's got to be worse than
that. Despite all of that, and society being very heavily on the side of trying to program femininity out of women instinctively search out that femininity. Mm-hmm. Some with greater success than others. And I think we're both trying to promote women to be feminine, men to be masculine, and we're promoting something that is the right software to run on the right hardware. Mm-hmm. If you're running the right software for the right hardware, you mentioned there are some people that don't want children. They really mm-hmm. don't. And that's not the software for them. They don't run the software of I'm going to have kids. But for the vast majority of women, that's where they're going to be truly happy. Mm-hmm. And they need they need a chance to experiment with that. And if you're a parent, if you're a mother or a father, get your kids the opportunity, especially your young girls, to spend time around babies. Mm-hmm. My great-grandmother told me that when she was a child, there was always babies around, because women had a child every 2 or 3 years, and they'd have 10 or more children. When a woman was done having kids, her oldest children were having grandkids. And so there was this constant cycle of babies. And so young girls, they had a lot of experience. There are young girls that had more experience than a woman who's about to give birth for the first time. These young girls had more experience with children.
Good point.
If you want to have grandkids, you need to teach your young girls, the young girls, about femininity, and let them experience babies and let them decide for themselves. It's not fair to them to push them in a direction that's not natural. It's cruel.
Good point. I believe that, and I shared this with you yesterday, as I know many women over 50, no children, no husband, no love of a lifetime, are sad. It's a very, very sad thing. And a woman over 40 even alone. I mean, maybe you had the failed first marriage and a few kids with it. Thank God for that, because then you have your children. But life is long without your family, and you lose your parents and even siblings. You know, it's just so sad. And so that's the other scary part of the lie, is that your fulfillment comes from material gain and status in the world. And, you know, if you want to write that novel or be a scientist, I mean, my own daughter is a wonderful teacher, and I think that's great. But she has the hurried woman syndrome already. She has a little boy, my grandson, and she's working and she's stressed out, and I can see it. And then her heart's going 100 miles an hour, and I don't know how long it's going to last, you know, because even I mean, go ahead.
Well, we know that from various studies that the millennial generation is the most stressed out generation yet.
Mm-hmm.
They're incredibly stressed out. Where are they getting that from? Partially it's because their parents went to work and stuck them in daycare.
Yep.
But partially it's simply because their parents were burned out. Their mother was trying to have everything.
Mm-hmm.
And she's going to neglect something. You know,
Yep.
and children feel that, and we're getting an entire generation with mental problems. You know, they're too stressed out. They're on the verge of a collapse and breaking, and we see some of the terrible behavior of certain groups. This is often due to the fact that they're stressed out from being raised in that environment. It's not kind to your children.
I was just jotting down because I don't want to forget my point here. And you know what I think the reaction is in millennial and around the ages, even 30-year-olds and maybe younger, I guess that is millennials, is the men have that, you know, failure to thrive thing where they're still in mommy's basement playing video games because the stress is so overwhelming. It's like, why even try? I'll never make her happy. And they're educated on pornography as far as sex goes. So they don't know how to romance. They don't know how to court or date a woman in the first place. And then they're trying to date these feminists who, I mean, expect things that are not normal. Don't need you anyway. So why even try? And then the women overreact. They're fighting their feminine instincts so strongly. Some of these scary feminists that I see screaming, and the purple hair and the lack of personal hygiene. And it is a complete like overreaction to the fact that they are feminine.
Yeah. Well, and just like women can be get a negative programming through feminism that destroys their natural instinct to do what makes them happy, men can get the same. You mentioned pornography. Whatever you expose yourself to, it will program you to react a certain way to stimulus. And when men are using pornography, especially when it's a regular thing.
Women, I have to say, who doesn't learn? I wonder, women don't want to talk about it, but how did people 30 years and younger learn about sex with the age of the internet?
Yes,
probably
exactly.
Pornography. Sad to say.
Yeah, and it really ruins people's ability to react appropriately to stimulation. So I'll give you an example. I get this quite often from people. Well, you know, given the right opportunity, anyone will cheat. Well, that could be, if they tell you that, what they're saying is given the right opportunity, I would cheat. That's what they're saying. And if you habituate yourself to, I see an attractive woman and then there's a sex scene because they're watching pornography, then they've programmed their mind to react to stimulation by giving in and doing whatever they want. And if they have been properly programmed, and if the person they choose to marry chooses to program themselves, chooses to decide that reaction is not the one they'll have. They're going to have the reaction. They'll be disgusted by the idea of cheating. You know, a woman who's disgusted by the idea of cheating will never cheat on you. Same man.
I think too, it's the expectation that women are normally like that in the bedroom.
Yeah.
It just it does a disservice so much to women. And then, like I said, I was doing sort of studying feminism and what's being taught in colleges, and they have really support sex workers as an okay profession.
Anything to destroy the family. Anything they can do to destroy
It's a
the
little
children.
bit shocking what I'm finding as I go through this. It's
Well, what's happened is we allowed, you know, in the West, we have a very strong respect for individual liberty. And we say, well, you know, if you want to do something and you do it quietly over there and I don't see it, you're not hurting anyone, that's your business. And in general, that's good, except there needs to be some social norms as well. And those social norms are enforced through ostracism, through the removal of people from your community that are not living in a way that the community accepts. And that just means that you don't talk to them anymore and you don't associate with them and you don't do business with them. And we have stopped ostracizing people. And when we do that, there are a lot of people that will just keep doing more and more extreme behavior to get attention. And then there are people who find out that they can make a lot of money off of what is really degenerate behavior. And so they promote it. And we are, what you are doing and what I'm doing is trying to reprogram society, one person at a time, reprogramming them to not react that way, reprogramming them to ostracize bad behavior and to react in a wholesome way to stimulate.
Well, that's ostracize. Wholesome behavior is ostracize. And anytime you have any sort of moral compass, you're ostracized for that. For, you know, I've been called by some of people who've known me since high school and unfriended on Facebook, you know, for being a bigot and racist, and shame on you for liking Trump or anything that has to do with him. And at the time that I don't tell people who I vote for. It's none of your business. Miss Strum from 5th grade taught me that. And I wish we would go back to that. It's none of your business who you vote for, people. But yeah, it's ridiculous. I'm like, really? You know me for 40 years and you say shame on me for really my conservative values. And I completely respect yours. And I'm doing no harm in mine. But I think their ideology is very harmful. And I know that from being a counselor and seeing it firsthand in my office.
That's absolutely right. And we're seeing it going to an extreme now where I think that it's making our job easier. I talk to a lot of young women and they're like, I don't know exactly what I want to do, but I don't want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they did a study in the UK recently and only about 20% of young women identified as feminists.
Right, that's the other thing. We're, you know, we are, I guess, the silent majority, although if you watch the news, we're not. We're a very small portion. I'm in the US of people who are pretty stupid, carry guns, and, you know, I don't know, sit on our front porch and do nothing all day but shoot. Hey, and you know what? There's nothing wrong with it. You know, my husband works with a lot of middle American people, and they are extremely smart. So shame on you, actually, for saying that.
Well, you know, I've had so many young ladies tell me that they wished that they had a father who would have told them not to have sex before marriage.
Yeah, oh, thank God. I'm so glad you mentioned that. This is a great point.
Exactly. They're programmed by society to think that virginity is a negative.
Yep, I know I was.
Yeah, and I've even had what I would call our selected men who are not particularly wholesome, tell me, oh, no, I wouldn't marry a girl who was a virgin. Why? Oh, well, it's got to be something wrong with her if she's still a virgin. She's very weird, you know? The norm now is that you do not treat your body with respect. You treat it as a commodity for other people to use. That's a terrible type of programming. The outcome is horrendous. And most young girls, they desperately want a father, so the patriarchy, they desperately want a father to tell them that that is unacceptable behavior and that he would be severely disappointed with them and that they will be much happier if they wait until they get married. Most women, especially young women, they want that. And when they don't get that, oftentimes the bad behavior they have is an attempt to get attention, is what they're doing.
Yeah, they're saying, please love me. Somebody, especially a male, love me. And they'll do anything to get it. I know, I was one of them. I was not a loose woman at all in high school or anything like that. But This is the thing. Sexual intercourse for a woman means a whole lot of different things for a woman than it does for a man because of the chemicals excreted when during sexual intercourse. Women fall in love with the man. Okay.
Yeah.
So then when it's just a one night stand, you're torn apart, you're in pieces, your heart is broken, and you're just giving away your heart to all these different people. But because of feminism and the lack of respect for the patriarchy, we have denied ourselves those natural feelings and just said it's fine. And women are becoming complete sluts and bragging about it. I've seen coffee mugs and things on college campuses that says, let's go sluts, and, good morning slut, or, they just call each other that. Yeah. And for a man, not that it isn't as important, but that you're different than us in that way. You don't bond and this is because women, you are the gatekeepers to civilization and the gatekeepers to procreation. So you own who gets born and who doesn't. It is very important, the man that you choose to have children with. And this is, I will say it forever, please be very careful who you allow into your private space. Yeah. I mean, come on, you can make a baby. And then, okay, so, I'll just get an abortion, no big deal. That stays with you a lifetime. And don't kid yourself. I know women, they will never, ever, ever forget the abortion that they've had. They will tell you when that baby would have been born, and that they think about that baby every day. It's hard enough to have the baby and give it up for adoption, which is the respectable thing to do. Please do that. Don't kid yourself in thinking that murdering your child will make your problems go away.
Exactly. And the fact is that if you are a young woman and you're looking for fatherly advice, you can find it. So perhaps in your church, there are conservative social groups out there. You can look for a coach or a mentor. Mm-hmm. This is something you can find. And the problem is that the women who really are celebrating being a slut, they are a very tiny minority. But they get all the attention. They get the attention because that's what mainstream media wants to promote. They want to promote tragedy. The mainstream media doesn't want to promote wholesomeness because wholesomeness does not sell magazines, does not sell television shows and newspapers. It's tragedy and it's destruction and fall of civilization.
I was born in the 60s, as child in the 70s, and a high schooler and college student in the 80s. So ever since I've been born, there has been this negativity toward wholesomeness. And actually, I was really taught, be wholesome, be the good girl. We went to church, all of that. But partying was very much encouraged. And, there was no talk of waiting till marriage and being pure on your wedding day. That was sort of ridiculous.
And if you are a parent and you're concerned about what kind of attitude your child will get, you have to see that the way that social programming works, including trying to program yourself or trying to help your children have a good program to run on, is that you can have two conflicting programs in your mind at the same time. What'll happen is one will be stronger than the other, and that'll be the one that you tend to follow. Mm-hmm. You have to ask yourself as a parent, am I making the stronger case to my child of how they should behave? Am I interacting sufficiently with my child to counteract any unavoidable programming they're getting from outside? Mm-hmm. And am I limiting my child's access to harmful programming?
That's why I say women take back the home, but dads, fathers, men, we need you so bad, and we are so sorry. Women, trust me, we are getting 20 to 25, at least, sometimes 40 to 50 new women a week to our closed Facebook group or following our YouTube channel to read these books and apologize to the men in their lives for this destruction that they've caused. And I do blame women, and people say that's kind of harsh. No, I blame women. You have ruined love for us. And this is happening. I talk to women all over the world, except in Asian cultures, we can't get in there. We in the Philippines a little bit, but Saudi Arabia, Australia, Greece, United Kingdom, Germany, Denmark. These are where I have, of course, United Kingdom, Ireland. Iceland. I talk to women all over the world. Canada. All feminism is everywhere. It's just everywhere.
Yeah,
They have the same problems, and there's
and
yeah.
feminism everywhere.
Oh, they're the worst feminists there.
Even the most extreme attempts to suppress feminism don't work. You cannot force women to not be feminist. The way that it works is men do have to set the right lead, the right example.
They do. For
women. But then on top of that is we have to make an argument to them, partially based on emotions, but partially based on logic. You know, we have to convince, because women are emotional creatures, we have to convince them to love themselves enough to take care of themselves properly. Because you can't love someone else till you love yourself.
Right. Men need to come forward and say, no, I'm not going to sleep with every woman who wants me to. That's wrong. That's true. That's absolutely true.
And this is the one redeeming quality of the MGTOW movement, is that they are encouraging men, this is a little vulgar, but they say, don't stick your dick in crazy.
Yeah, we did interview in the very beginning about a year ago or the beginning of this year with Fascinating Womanhood, Dixie and Bob, and I talked to someone in the MGTOW movement. We were quite shocked. It was sort of an eye-opening experience, but we didn't blame them at all. Felt really bad. And I don't blame men at all for feeling that way. If I was a man, I'd probably do that too. I'd be very afraid of women. I'm afraid for my son and my 2 stepsons. My dad even was like, oh my gosh, what if someone came forward and accused, he's 86 and he's an executive his whole life and he has money. Yep. Someone could come forward and say he did this, and come on.
Well, it wasn't that long ago that we've had this problem. It's not we. Humanity has had this problem of accusing people with essentially no evidence and running what we called it witch trials. We've had inquisitions. We've had moral panics. They're broadly called a moral panic. We've had these kind of moral panics throughout history. And we've actually been better at suppressing that kind of behavior in the West than anywhere else, because we have that strong belief in personal liberty, but also a dedication to the truth. And those of us who have not been taken over by the insanity have to keep speaking the truth loudly and boldly. And we will not convince everyone. We don't have to. We have to convince everyone who wants to listen. Anyone who wants to listen needs to have the opportunity to have the right information available. And the rest of the people, they're not our responsibility. Fortify those who want to listen, and crazy people will be crazy. It's just the way it is.
Mm-hmm. Great point. I'm just being quiet because I'm a little afraid, because the truth is getting stifled. I mean, we'll probably get flack for talking about this the way we're talking about it. But Noah and I hopefully are going to be doing this every week, because I want to see more men and women talking about these issues that we see in the news and that we see in our communities and that we just see in culture as a whole, of this gender fluid nonsense and confusion and all of it. So many.
Recently, I saw a British comedian say that, he says, I essentially paraphrasing him, I don't know what masculinity is, but I don't like it.
Oh no.
This is the actual state of masculinity for so many people. They don't know what it is, but they're sure they don't like it.
And I'm sure they're afraid. What's that?
It's irrational. It's not sound. It's not healthy. And the fight back to that is us. Now, I do believe we are hitting rock bottom at this point.
Mm-hmm.
We are hitting the point where ordinary people go, okay, I can't ignore this anymore. I have to take a side. And most people are not crazy. The really crazy people are a small minority. Most people are simply non-committed. They just want to be left alone and live their life. But it's getting pushed, not by us. It's getting pushed to a point where decisions have to be made. Mm-hmm. And we have to be there to help people to make those decisions. People who are already living wholesome and clean lives that have, maybe they belong to a strong church community. They have a powerful personal philosophy that leads them towards wholesome behavior. We don't need to convince those people. They already know what they're doing. We need to help all the people that they know that feminism is wrong. They know that a hatred of men is wrong. They know that there should be strong and healthy gender roles. They're just not quite sure what to do. They know they don't like that.
Mm-hmm.
We have to show them this. We have to show them
it's very hard to unlearn. It's very hard to unlearn those habits. That's why people take classes in Fascinating Womanhood. They're basically saying, Jenny, please teach me how to be a woman again and not feel guilty about my femininity, be okay with my vulnerability, we are so powerful. This is what I don't know. Femininity is extremely strong. Masculinity is extremely strong. It's strength in different ways. It's a lock and key relationship. Neither is any good without the other. And so I want our message, or at least my message, to be, women, you're so strong and it's so beautiful. It's a beautiful strength. Yeah. You're the queen of your home as he is the king. And even if you're a single woman, you're a mother to your community.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that. What I have had explained to me by some people, their theory is that pushing women into the workplace and away from men was actually done to weaken them, because it weakened both men and women, weakened family. And weak people are easy to control and manipulate. And that's what it all comes down to. There are groups in society that want to control and manipulate the masses. They want to harvest us like animals, essentially. And we can fight back on that. Politics is the end result. This is not the first line of defense. The first line of defense is the family. That's the first line of defense in any society, to have cohesion and strength. And we've lost that. And that's why we're focusing on how do we rebuild families, by helping women to be women, men to be men, by even there's Fascinating Parenthood, I think, as well. And so this is helping people to create those strong families. And what happens in politics is downstream from that culture. Mm-hmm. And
I say strong families make strong nations. That's a first thing Bob and Dixie will say. And can I take this minute just to show the book that we're?
Please do.
Okay. So this is the cover of Fascinating Womanhood, the vintage edition. Now, the original book in 1960 has been completely revised to speak to 21st century. But the new book is coming out within a month, Fascinating Womanhood for the Timeless Woman. There's a workbook because it is a study. Okay, it's a study. It's a beautiful cover here. And we do classes in the Fascinating Girl for single girls, and there's classes in All About Raising Children. That's it. What people are coming to us to learn how to be wives, mothers, and homemakers all over again.
Yeah, I mentioned in some of my introductions on my website that we have lost the traditional knowledge that we had that made our culture so strong. And what you're doing, what I'm doing, we're regaining that knowledge. We're capturing what exists left of it. We're adding on to it and rebuilding a new culture. This is what will drive culture for the future. If you want to influence the course of Western civilization, you will do it by supporting projects like Fascinating Womanhood and SMV4K. This is how we will get out of things. There is no other solution but to change the culture.
Thank you, Noah. Wow. You're so right. Strong families create strong nations. That's what it's all about. So it's as simple as that.
Been excellent speaking with you, and I'm looking forward to talking with you again next week. Let's make this a weekly thing.
I would love to. Thank you so much, Noah.
Thank you. Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.